Alright everyone, we have to talk about the real meaning of the New Jersey and Virginia election results and some of the other stuff that's going on right now because, hey, Democrats, people who support, like, liberal causes, you gotta tell Tom Perez to shut the fuck up, and you've gotta tell the Democrats that just because they managed to hold a governor's seat and win one that was never really contested and they were, you know, it was a foregone conclusion, they were gonna win in New Jersey, that should not make them so optimistic that they don't push for reform or addressing the deep, scandalous problems within the DNC. Because otherwise, you might end up with another situation where you have like a bankrupt DNC, they can't fundraise, they get problems, and you get another neoliberal candidate like Clinton who simply can't win. That's probably what you end up with, especially if you go into the midterms. If you do as well as now you're saying you're going to do, once again, it's like before. You were honest and said, well, you know, the DNC has issues, the Democratic Party needs to do some soul searching. The politicians didn't want to admit that, but the lay Democrats, I think, understood better, some of the social activists. They're like, well, maybe we need a reform candidate. Maybe we need to we need to re-embrace the working class and stop race baiting. Maybe we need to be more youth-friendly, you know, less on the, hey, let's go to war side. Regardless, though, you needed reform. You were honest enough to admit that. Now you're trying to tell me that the Virginia race is the bellwether for the midterms. Okay, what does that mean? First, you're wrong. You're wrong on one count because it's being declared a referendum on Trump. Well, then, that doesn't make sense because Gillespie wasn't the one Trump was backing during the Republican primaries there. He was backing Gillespie's main opponent. Gillespie won anyway. And so that was not the one that Trump had endorsed. Of course, he came out and endorsed him in the general election. But here's Gillespie trying to walk that thin line between not really wanting to fully embrace Trump, but not wanting to look establishment. It became very difficult for him. He should have chosen one or the other and stuck by his guns. It wouldn't really have mattered which one he did. He probably would have won if he hadn't tried to straddle the fence. That's a warning to the Republicans in the midterms. Don't try to straddle the fence between being kind of Trumpish, but also kind of establishment neocon. It's not going to work because Trump's fans will never back you if you straddle the line. And by the way, neither will most of the neocons because they'll say, well, it's still a little too far out there for our tastes. And so you'll end up with half as many votes as you should have. You'll get crushed. Don't do that. Do one or the other depending on how popular Trump is in your area. You should coordinate with Trump openly on this. You should tell him, hey, I'm in an area where you're not popular. I'm going to pretend that I don't want anything to do with you and that I'm totally separate from DC. Just fucking trust me on this one. Trump is not going to tell you no because he understands strategy. If this is a bellwether of the midterms, the Democrats are screwed, and I'll tell you why. Look at the voting result. The gap between Northam and Gillespie is roughly the same as the gap was between Clinton and Trump. So you won by about the same margin, which means wouldn't you, if you're extrapolating this to the whole country, which is a dumb idea, but let me humor you, wouldn't that indicate that you're going to perform poorly again in the Rust Belt? You're going to perform poorly again and maybe lose Florida again? That maybe you're a hazard in a place like Nevada? Maybe you're a hazard in a place like Minnesota? You probably won't get Wisconsin? Because if that's the case, if that's what you're telling me, I don't know why you're so optimistic. I would think that'd be a reason to be afraid. If Trump, due to supposedly vast unpopularity, which I don't believe for a second anyway, is dragging the GOP down, then why didn't it drag the vote down for Gillespie? Especially when he was trying to straddle that line. He did at least pay some lip service to Trump. Well then, why didn't he lose by 10 points then? You're so optimistic, I don't understand why. As for New Jersey, the only person who was even willing to bother running was the lieutenant governor of outgoing Chris Christie, who was so vastly unpopular there was never a snowball's chance in the infernal regions that the Republicans were going to hold that seat. It was an aberrance that Chris Christie as a Republican was even governor in the first place. He accomplished that by being a far-left Republican. New Jersey is a deep, deep blue state. So the Republicans haven't really, it's not like they're going to enact a significantly conservative agenda in a state like New Jersey. So who cares? The biggest win for the Democrats, and some people, let me explain this because, you know, some people on the right will jump down my throat if I don't elaborate on this point. The biggest victory for the Democrats is getting the first transgendered legislator. And I say that because a lot of people within the youth vote and the progressive vote that they've disenfranchised as part of the Democratic Party, that gives them more hope. That gives them a morale boost. On that token, the Democrats get a little bit of a victory, but that's minor. It's minor compared to looking at the voting result in New Jersey. The final tally also looks pretty much like the national election, because it regressed. What we've done is regress to pure partisanship. It's not about, well, Gillespie on his own token as an individual. It's Gillespie as a generic Republican, basically. We see that in New Jersey, too. Well, if that happens, then you'd expect, you look around the country. A lot of the areas that are going to be up for a vote come the midterms are fairly red regions. Some of them controlled by Democrats that now are being challenged. They're going to lose then. If it's pure partisanship, the Democrats get wiped out in those areas. Some Republicans lose out. More Democrats lose out. They lose a seat or two in the Senate. They end up getting crushed. They don't gain anything significant in the House. They gain, a handful of seats. If that's the victory that the Democrats are looking for, it's not going to help them. They can't enact an agenda. They can't bring impeachment proceedings and overhaul the whole government and install, their world socialism forever. They're not going to get it. They're not going to have any power. So why are the right people on the right? Some of these are shills pretending to be on the right, pretending to panic. Where's the panic? By the way, when you're analyzing things like this, suspend any personal bias that you happen to have. You shouldn't, it's like some people, they'll analyze this. And they'll say, well, that fucking Northam's a gun grabber. Oh, transgenderism's degeneracy. Oh, thank goodness Gillespie, that evil bigot lost. Fucking New Jersey liberals. If you do that, you can't analyze things properly. You have to step back and look at things for the totality. You got to remember that your opinion isn't the only one that's had in the whole U.S. Your opinion, generally speaking, your opinions speak for a minority of the public because nothing is truly dichotomous. It's not a 50-50 proposition most of the time, including with party affiliation. Look, if the Democrats in the midterms, let's say for a second that they do well, they retake the Senate or something, it just locks down the government and third parties grow because people will be so bitter at them. They're at a 25-year low in popularity, and you're telling me that they're optimistic. I don't think so. I think inside they're shaking. I think Tom Perez sits there and sweats at night and has bad dreams about what might happen in 2018. That's what I honestly think. I don't think that they're quite as confident about their midterm chances as they're projecting right now. What they're hoping to do is they're hoping to get the Democratic lay people excited and give them enough of a morale boost so that their turnout goes up for the midterms. That's what they're currently doing. But if it doesn't work, or if all of that stuff falls away in the meantime and things regress back to being demoralized because of some random event, Democrats are screwed, basically. So it's a referendum. New Jersey's a referendum on Christie. Not a surprise. Far blue state, outgoing, extremely unpopular governor. I probably would have voted for the Democratic candidate too, just because of how bad Christie was. If I was in New Jersey, I'd have been like, oh, fuck it, who cares? Like his lieutenant governor is likely to do any better than he did. Well, I don't want to suffer under that bullcrap anymore. Maybe vote for Mickey Mouse or something. Is Mickey Mouse eligible? Of course, he's not a resident of New Jersey. Okay, maybe Al Capone, Al Capone's corpse or something. Jimmy Hoffa. So, I probably would have too. So that's not a surprising result. The Virginia result is basically, oh, hey, the polls didn't really move. The final result is basically the same final result we had during the presidential election, which supposedly we only won by the skin of our teeth because of higher turnout in some urban areas. Woohoo, what a wonderful day. Now, I don't think that you should be excited. I don't think that you should get complacent. Now, what you need to do is reform the Democratic Party and stop race baiting all the time and have a real platform. By the way, a lot of people who right now are not remotely receptive to the Democratic message, they would vote for you. Not just younger people. I'm talking about people who are more centrists and stuff. People who right now, the Democrats' platform is we need to censor things, and by the way, Trump is mean and didn't let us start enough wars. The Republicans stood in the way of Obama's warmongering. That's a bad thing. They're agents of Russia. So you've regressed into a bigoted Red Scare party. Okay. Yeah, that's great news. That's going to be a wonderful platform for the future. I don't think the future is quite so far left as you wish that it would be. I just don't think that. All this talk about, demographic shift, we're going to become socialists. We're going to become a socialist African nation, according to some people on the alt-right. Well, okay. Well, I don't know what to say, because if you just look at election maps over time, you can see demographic shift is never stable. Never will be either, by the way. It isn't in other countries either. It always changes all the time. Look what happened in the UK. Oh, conservatism is dead forever. Well, then they surge back up, and you get your Brexit, and then Labour kind of waddles along, kind of comes back a bit. Still not in command, though. I mean, look at the world. Things change. Don't try to, if you're trying to tell me that Virginia is a good indicator of the way in which 2018 goes, I would say that, well, then the Democrats lose a little bit more. At the very least, they come in dead even. They gain and lose nothing. That's going to be wonderful. So then they can tell their constituents, hey, the most historically unpopular president ever is in office, but, you know, we broke even, guys. Yeah, good job. You know, that was a running joke. Remember? George W., when he was running against John Kerry, 2004. His popularity had already cratered quite a bit. You know, it's pre-Katrina, but it was in the low 40s. And basically it boiled down to this, and people didn't, satirists didn't ignore it at the time. The Democratic argument was that they should be happy with the fact that their candidate was about even with Bush, despite the fact that Bush was Satan incarnate. Which, you know, it's kind of true, but you know, it was a good point to make. It was because John Kerry was a weak candidate. Are we going to have another 2004 redux because the Democrats don't reform and put forth another tired, boring old neoliberal? I think it's fairly likely. I'd give a better than 50-50 chance. And Virginia could show us exactly why something like that happened. Look to the future. Don't just look at the present. Think about how it could be a bellwether of what to come. And the Democrats are saying that the 2017 gubernatorial race here is a bellwether of the coming midterms. Okay, well then go ahead and suffer. Is it a bellwether of 2020? Go ahead and seek Trump reelected, definitely. Oh, he would definitely be reelected if that's your bellwether. 100% guaranteed. That's about all. Peace out.